Hello, welcome to the Sutliffian Report. Today we are going to cover a lot on Zakat. And if you happen to be from a farming community and want to share with us some of this, your thoughts on this, please do go up to the top. I didn't pin things to the top, but there is a comment in there to join the stream. And if you're willing to join us, please do. Today, there's a lot in here today that we're going to cover, and I think we have maybe two more sessions on Zakat at the most. It's interesting to see how much longer this section on prayer was than anything else we've covered. Um, it says something about Islam's priorities. Is it prayer, or is that actually something else? Is that a method of control? That's something we'll have to think about down the road. Um, I do want to talk about. Uh, I do want to get into the importance of remaining true to your mission, and for me, that is every week we start with a reading from God's Word. And today I've been going through Second Kings, and we're going to read from chapter 9, verses 1 to 10. And Elisha the prophet called one of the children of the prophets and said unto him, Gird up your loins, and take this box of oil in your hand, and go to Ramoth Gilead. And when you get there, look for Jehu, the son of Jehoshaphat, the son of Nimshi, and go in and make him arise from among his brethren, and carry him to an inner chamber. Then take the box of oil and pour it on his head, and say, Thus says the Lord, I have anointed you king over Israel. Then open the door and flee, and tarry not. So the young man, even the young man the prophet, went to Ramoth Gilead, and when he came, and behold, the captains of the host were sitting, and he said, I have an errand for you, O captain. And Jehu said, Unto which of all of us? And he said, To you, O captain. And he arose and went into the house, and the young man poured oil on his head and said unto him, Thus says the Lord God of Israel, I have anointed you king over the people of the Lord, even over Israel. And you shall smite the house of Ahab your master, that I may avenge the blood of my servants, the prophets, and the blood of all the servants of the Lord at the hand of Jezebel. For the whole house of Ahab shall perish, and I will cut off from Ahab him that pisses against the wall, and him that is shut up and left in Israel. And I will make the house of Ahab like the house of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, and like the house of Baasha, the son of Ahijah. And the dog shall eat Jezebel in the portion of Jezreel, and there shall be none to bury her. And he opened the door and fled. This passage has Elijah giving a direction to a subordinate who's not named. All that we know about him is that he's one of the sons of the prophets, which the sons of the prophets was like a school where people came and they considered Elijah. This was started by Elijah, and then Elijah takes over, and he becomes like a father to them. So he's one of those kids, probably 20, 30 something. I don't have a clue as to how old he is, that he's significant enough that Elijah sends him on this journey. All he does is give him a few simple directions. Go here, do this, say this. This son of a prophet does what he was asked, and because he's obedient, finds himself used to anoint a new king and speak prophecy over his life. Some may ask, why didn't Elijah do this? Well, Elisha was an old man. It's a long journey and required a much younger man in his prime to be able to run the moment his words were said. When this young man was picked for this task, he likely had no idea how important a task he was being assigned. He likely had no idea that he would be anointing a new king when there was a king. But there had to be a great joy in his heart when he heard that God was ending the house of Ahab and Jezebel. I want you to think about that. God has a task for each of us. Sometimes we don't want to obey, but still do. It is the obedience to God that reaps rewards beyond our imagination. This nameless young man did all that he was asked, and his name is not even recorded, but his actions and words were. Do we need our legacy to carry our name, or is it more important that our actions and words stand? Think about that. I'm, I start looking at some of what I do, and I wonder sometimes, am I just putting my name on something? Is that my goal there? To put the name out? And the answer is no. What do I want? What are my goals? And I start thinking about that with the mission being for what the Sutliffian Report is about and what I'm doing. I had started this whole journey as putting out the news. And that's why it's called the Sutliffian Report, and it has news on the logo. Well, we're going to be getting into some of the news later. So I'm not totally walking away from the news, but my big thing has always been Christian apologetics and how do we address what's happening. And now we're on part 43, of part 43 of critical thinking versus sharia, and we're talking about zakat. How does Christian apologetics play into that? Well, we're asking the questions that Muslims fear asking. That's the thing I think is humorous. They're not allowed to ask questions. We'll ask them for them. And as a result, it is my sincere prayer, and I believe it's Sharon's and many others, that our asking these questions for them gives them an opportunity to say, hey, that doesn't necessarily make sense. Maybe I should leave Islam. That's the goal. That's the hope. That's the great joy if that's what happens. I'm more than excited when I think about that. And that is the great thing we hope for. I'm going to get into this, and you're going to be surprised. Now, I have more books on Sharia than just Reliance of the Traveler, and I didn't realize how much I had until I started doing my research this week, and I discover one of my other books is cited in the material that I was doing research on. Oh, I didn't expect that. Hey, Damian, thank you for joining us. And thank you, Elizabeth, for being here. And Larry, thank you. And I thought I told that already. Okay, let's get into this. And here, push your mouse in the right spot. It helps, right? Okay. I did want to share, this was me in 2015. This is my second book. And yes, that is James O'Keefe of Project Veritas back then. I was at CPAC, and that is where I met a candidate for President Trump back then. And I gave him a copy of that book, Civilization, Jihad, and the Myth of Modern Islam, and I thoroughly believe he read it and as a result did certain things. I hope that that's exactly what happened. All right. I wanted to show you this to start out with. And I have someone working on a translation for me. I tried Google Translate. And if Google Translate is right, this is a mess. And it's kind of what I'm going to be curious to see what my translator says. They didn't translate that. And if that is because this is such a mess, it actually, I'll come out and say it doesn't make sense. It's not in any form. It's not logical in sequence. It's not logical in form. That's my best way to put it. So this would be the next thing we read. And I honestly want a more accurate translation. So I am asking someone I know who knows Arabic to take a look at this. And if he's good, I'm going to check with Usama, see how good he is. And then I'm going to have a local person who can translate for me, which would be great. All right. Here's the thing I want to get into. That passage is about zakat on camels. There's a problem here. When I start looking at zakat on camels, it doesn't make any sense. So I went into Islam Q&A. Well, Islam Q&A, which made me laugh, is citing this book that I had. All right. Al-Hidayah. To say that I actually had this was a gift from somebody. Sometimes you get nice gifts from people that they're done using their library and they want to pass it on. That's what I lucked out on. They cite this book as an answer, so I'm just kind of excited. The question reads, my in-laws have a history of herding livestock in Arabia, camels included. Could you please outline the Shafi school's position on the zakat of camels? Also with charts and tables. If that's too much to ask, think about this. All right. Sounds like a simple question. We have talked about zakat pretty much being a wealth tax, but for farmers, it's income tax. And you're going to see that. And that to me is a huge, huge difference. Here we go. Could you read this page, Sharon, please?
Yeah. I pronounce Zakat differently than you do. I mean, okay.
Doesn't matter.
Okay. Zakat on animals is restricted to livestock, meaning camels, cattle, sheep, and goats. Zakat is only obligatory on livestock, and livestock is camels, cattle, sheep, and goats. I guess that's from a couple different sources. The conditions for the obligation of zakat on livestock, in brief, 4 conditions must be found for zakat on livestock to be obligatory. The livestock must reach the zakat payable amount. 1 full year must elapse on the nisab. The livestock must be free grazing. They are not work animals. I'm not sure what nisab means. Oh, halt.
So you're asking the same questions I have, and they'll be answered as we read along, which is interesting. I like to have the answers ahead of time. I like to pre-teach the vocabulary, but this was how I had to learn this. So I'm kind of, here's the catch. These words are not something familiar to anybody who doesn't know Arabic. So this proves a little bit of a problem. And that's kind of what I want us to look at. Because remember, less than 90%, more than 90% of Muslims do not know Arabic. And yet they're using these words to communicate. They're using English. They're using whatever. And they're still hiding things in Arabic. Why can't they simply reveal that? I think that those are great questions. Take a look at this piece here. What is a zakat payable amount? And they're calling that nisab. Well, we'll talk about that a little bit more. 1 full year must elapse on the nisab, which is the zakat payable amount. 1 full year. That would mean we're talking about a wealth tax, right? Are we? Start thinking about that. The livestock must be free grazing. So does that mean the livestock doesn't stay in the barn? It goes out and eats someplace? Yes. And these are not work animals. So if you have a horse that pulls a plow, if you have bulls that do breeding, stallions that does breeding, these animals are not considered, or you have cows that, a milk cow is a working animal. So you don't pay any zakat on these things. If you have a goat that you milk, it's considered a working animal. Your dog, well, let's see. Now, we can talk about dogs. We can talk about anything that works on a farm. This will make my question about chickens be very interesting. But we're going to take a look at this. And, okay. What is given us zakat? We're going to take a look at this real quick. This chart is kind of important. Do you see the word shah here? Now, I want to ask if this makes sense to anyone. The description of a shah is a 1-year-old sheep in its 2nd year of a 2-year-old goat. A 1-year-old sheep in its 2nd year, or a 2-year-old goat in its 3rd year. What is it? A 1-year-old or a 2-year-old, or a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old? Which, does that make sense to anybody? because it does not make sense to me.
No.
It just seems like a whole contradiction. I mean, even reading down, a 1-year she camel in its second year. Is it a 1-year-old or a second year? Okay. A 2-year-old male camel in its third year. So I kind of understand this at this point after having read through this about 25 times at least. So let's say you have a camel, it's a year old, and it gives birth. So they would consider this camel or the sheep to be in its, so it would be like if it's a 1-year-old sheep, it would be the second year of Zakat because the mother was in its second year. So it's this mix of things that kind of contradicts itself. It makes it very, very difficult to understand. It's almost like they don't know how to add and subtract when you think about this. But I think they're purposely or unknowingly making things difficult. This got me confused. Again, this is Sharia. I am not making this crap up. I got it from Islam Q&A. It is hard to understand. Okay. Now I want to show you where I'm at. So this is okay. And let me see if I need to grow that up too. And let me do a few things here. Collapse the ribbon, and I'll grow this bigger so everybody can see it. And can everybody see that better? Okay. And there's the 4 conditions. That's that. No matter how many times I look at this, it doesn't make sense. A 1-year-old she camel in its second year. Is it 1 year or second year? Okay, so here we go. This is where things start to make some sense. What is meant by Shah is a sheep or goat. It is valid to choose either of the two. According to the soundest view, it is valid to give a male or female since the name Shah can apply to both. This is as Bafadi mentioned in whatever, where it says a female or male yearling sheep or a female or male 2-year-old goat. Okay, come back up here. 1-year-old sheep in its second year. Okay, I think they're purposely trying to make non-Arabic speakers confused because that's very clear. Female or male 2-year-old goat. Up here, 1-year-old sheep in his second year, a 2-year-old goat in his third year. That's really confusing to read. Why did they do this? I have significant questions. The conditions of the Shah are this: that it be kept, that it either be a sheep or goat of the land, equal or more in value, that it be healthy and free from defects. Kind of makes sense. You don't give the thing you don't give it away if it's sick, because that's the one you have to give away. You should be giving away if you're giving. If the intent here, and this is kind of sarcastic statement, I'll admit. If the intent here is to give back to Allah by doing zakat, then their idea of God, would you give him a defect or would you give him your best? Understand that there are lots of ways out of zakat. So the question is, did Allah not want you to give these things? So should you at least give something? Yeah, there will be an expectation, but it almost seems like he's trying to give you ways out and con things that just makes you wonder. Okay. You don't want to give, if you're giving this back to Allah, and again, I'm probably being more kind than I should in saying this. You shouldn't give to any god something that's not healthy. And if you have a belief in that God, you should be giving it your best. That's what I'm going to say there. So you shouldn't be trying to gyp your God. That's kind of what B is all about there. Regarding the second condition, they have this translation. It is necessary condition of the obligatory shah that it be healthy, even if the camels are ill. Did you guys hear that right? It is a necessary condition of the obligatory shah that it be healthy, even if the camels are ill, since the shah is a financial obligation. So how do you do this? Start thinking about that. You can't give them something effective, but you have an obligation to do so. So what do you have to sell to pay your zakat? And that's where we start getting into some interesting questions, because it's not really there. Here we go. There are two views regarding this. One takes a healthy shah, sheep or goat, that befits the ill camels. This is the view of the Ibn Quran and was adopted majority. One gives a healthy shah as one normal would had the camels been healthy. An example of the first view is as follows. Again, some of these citations are from this book, Al-Hidayah, and I was looking through here, and I'm looking at this like this. It's kind of surprising that, here I've been quoting from one book, and I didn't realize I had another one here and covering the same things. I was so happy to read. Sometimes you need to read multiple sources that say the same things, so you don't feel like you're a total idiot when you're trying to understand things. I'm looking at this and saying, what's going on? Why is this so different? I'm concerned because it's not easily explainable. So can you imagine if you're Muslim, you have to pay zakat. Now, does this give you reason to have someone in charge of zakat and telling you what you have to pay? This is hard to understand. And that's kind of what I'm getting at. They're creating a whole system where you have to have a person in charge of payments of zakat, so you can't exactly know what to pay. This is really confusing. All right, let's keep going here. An example of the first view is this. Again, that would be the healthy shah that befits the ill camels. One has 5 ill camels valued at 50 dirhams, though had they been healthy, their value would be 100. And the typical value of the shah one intends to distribute is 6 dirhams. In this stance, one has to distribute one healthy shah valued at 3 dirhams. All right. It almost sounds like they have to pay for it or buy it. That's kind of what I'm getting from that. And, that, again, the fact that they have this value here, it just kind of blew my mind. The first condition here, obligations, conditions, and detail, the nisab. Now, again, we saw the nisab earlier. The nisab is the amount that's like the flock or the amount of livestock that you have that is deemed zakat payable. Again, these words, they introduce these words before definitions. Law books do not do this. This is what makes Sharia difficult to read. They don't tell you what it means. So you have to read and read and read and read until you can find a definition. This is the zakat payable amount. They have determined zakat can be due on this small amount. This is the minimum amount. So the first condition is the livestock must reach the nisab. Okay, so we'll go back up here and we'll talk about what do they mean. Must reach the nisab. There was 4 conditions. And here we go. To go back up here, there was 4 conditions. One of them, here we go. Okay. Livestock have to be to reach the zakat payable amount. That's the nisab. They have to be 1 full year must elapse. So it's, again, they're trying to say it's not an income tax. It's not a wealth tax. It's an income tax. But again, this is a farmer. These things that are being taxed are their income. The livestock must be free grazing. And again, they're not work animals. None of these things can be work animals. So keep that in mind. So, I mean, we think about work animals. We think about cows. We think about Horses, we don't generally think about camels. Well, if your camel is used from going from point A to point B, it can't be taxed with zakat. It's a travel device. It's a work animal. So these are the things that get people out of those conditions. All right, first condition, livestock must reach the nisab. No zakat is due on camels until they reach the age of 5, upon which one shah is due, which would be one sheep or goat. On how many camels? Listen, they reach 5. So that's 5 camels. So you would pay one sheep or goat for every 5 camels. On 10 camels, you pay 2 shahs. Again, that's 2 sheep or goats. 15 camels, you're paying 3 sheep or goats. 20 camels, you're paying 4 sheep or goats. 25. I think this person knows more about fraction than Allah because they're consistent. It's 1/5. Oh, 20%. Ooh, where's that number come from? Isn't that the same exact amount Muhammad demanded be paid to Allah, but he received it for Allah? So that 20% we're talking about. It's not 2.5% like everybody pays for zakat. He's charging 20%. Why do the farmers have to pay more? Start asking these questions because that's something they tell you zakat is 2.5%, but here it's 20%. Oh, could it be that Allah doesn't know percentages and he thinks 2.5% is 20%? It's entirely possible. No one said Allah was good at math, but it's, you can see this. It's here. Again, on 61 camels, one jaza, it gives the other ones, and those are, they're talking about from up here. Those are the other words that are up here. Pull that back up. That's what they're talking about. Bint Makad, 1 year she camel in its second year. Ibn Laboon, 2-year-old camel. Again, don't ask me to explain this part where 1-year-old she camel in a second year. How can you have that? And the only thing I can think about is if the year she was born, the mother was she's a year ahead, the year that they start calling her for zakat. So that's the closest I can get. And I think it's a major mistake in zakat figuring, or maybe it's just Allah doesn't understand math. I'm not sure which. But this is the thing that creates lawyers. It creates accountants because it's too hard to understand. And that says something. It might seem simple, but it can be very confusing. And someone could easily say you did something wrong when you did what you thought was right. And this is my issue with this whole topic. Again, pertaining to the nisab, zakat on 25 camels, they give that. They have these defined amounts and what they come out to, and their bint markad was shown up. I showed that a minute ago. Let's go on. The haul. The second condition is that 1 full year passes on the nisab. So that thing has to be the animal they give as an offering, or as zakat, I should say, has to be a year old minimum. It says 2 conditions must be found in order for zakat to be obligatory on livestock. The 1 year must pass while the nisab is under one's ownership. So you can't just get something and give it away as a payment. It has to have been in your hands for a full year. So this is how they kind of hint at it being a wealth tax. Well, you had it for a year. Now we're considering it wealth tax. Well, here's the problem. You are dealing with livestock that you're selling off. So you're selling camels off, which means that you generally have camels that you would use for studs, and your income is based on the amount of camels you would be able to breed and sell. So the income is what gets taxed. It's not wealth, and that's the thing to understand. The farmer is the only one that gets taxed at 20%. Two conditions must exist in order for the offspring to be offered. And again, we get end of the Zakat year, even if only for a moment before. Yeah. When the offspring be born after the haul or before it did not fully exit the mother. This is where I started to grasp that they're talking about. They're putting two different concepts of years together here. When the offspring is born after the haul, or before. So it's the different Zakat year is what they're saying. It'll be counted on the Zakat for the following year. So this is what makes life confusing. You have to have an accounting of when something is born to understand how it can be reflected in your Zakat payment. This is totally confusing. Yeah, I like this. Farmers don't have weapons to back up their complaints. Yeah, this is so confusing. And yeah, here we go. 3 is 1/40th of 120, so I don't see how that works against the values of 50 or 100. It's inconsistent. Yes. This is, like I said, it doesn't necessarily make a whole lot of sense to me. But we're going through Sharia. We didn't say it had to make sense. This is why we are here to ask questions. And if anybody has some, please ask, because I'll tell you, I have been going through this for about a week, trying to figure it out. And it just has my head hurting. First, I'm not a genius in math. And the second part of that is I'm thinking, this doesn't make sense. It makes about as much sense as, we need Dr. Kufar Phobia here to figure it out. Say he's the math guy. Or wait, we have Rad here. Rad is more of a math guy than I am. This just doesn't make sense to me.
What's that? Let me see.
Any of this, any of these numbers. I mean, how about this one, Rad? What is, we'll go back up to what a Shah is. Just get the mouse in the right spot. Here we go. All right, so I'll go up to the first here. Okay. A Shah is a 1-year-old sheep in its second year, or a 2-year-old goat in its... Okay.
A 1-year-old
now
sheep
you
in
do
its
math.
second year.
Okay, can you explain that one as a mathematician?
Well, I'm not a mathematician, but yes, I do math. But no, that doesn't. Well, no, a 1-year-old sheep in its second year, or a
Does that sound
2-year-old goat in its third year. Well, I'm just trying to be the devil's lawyer here, and like, what could they be saying? I mean,
well,
so
if the mother had, so the mother had
because
the baby.
Farming or agricultural terms, things sometimes don't make any sense because they're saying something that you know what I mean, that we wouldn't grasp. You know what I mean? Yeah. So a 1-year-old sheep. So a 1-year-old sheep in its second.
I got an idea.
Okay.
Are you guys ready?
Yeah,
sure.
Go ahead.
The first year is considered, in the sheep life or whatever the animal is, 0 to 1. Okay.
Yes.
We call it 1-year-old when it hits at 1. And the second year would be 1 to 2. You get what I'm trying to say?
So it's an offset. Yeah, so you're starting at 0 instead of at 1.
Yeah.
Okay, that actually makes sense.
That's the only way I see it to make sense.
Okay, that makes more sense than that. So you're, in order to be a Shah, it must be in its second year of life. Or are we saying it must?
Technically, we would call it 1-year-old.
Yeah. Huh. That actually makes a lot more sense.
Okay, because that's the only way it makes sense to me.
That I hadn't even considered. Wow. See, this is why I like doing this with people and asking other people ask questions, because when I sat here and tried to get past this, I couldn't. It just drove me nuts. And this is why I started looking up. I went to Islam Q&A and tried to find answers. And I wasn't finding any clear ones. They're all saying the same thing. Okay, here we go. Okay, take a look. 5 ill camels valued at 50 dirhams. Though they've been healthy, their value would have been 100. Okay, and that would require 1 shah, all right, which would be equivalent of 6 dirhams. In this instance, because there's only 50 camels, 50 dirhams value, they have 1 healthy shah valued at value of shah 1 to 10 is 6 dirhams. Okay, 3 dirhams. It's just kind of, that doesn't make sense to me. Again, some of these are just. How about these fractions here, Brad? On Zakat camels, you pay 1 bint makad. Okay, 1 bint makad. I'm going to go back up. 1 bint makad is the equivalent of a 1-year-old camel, which would, in its 2nd year, so that would be a 2-year-old camel if we're following the logic that Sharon used. I mean, we're talking about the difference between a sheep and a camel. We're talking about a significant difference in meat, that's for sure. And that's a huge amount of difference.
Yeah, so I dropped off because right when Sharon was making her point, and I agree with that, because that's why I was thinking going at that. Are they like starting at 0, or where are they starting? But I don't think that's that doesn't. I don't know. I mean, okay.
See, the way you're stuck right now is where I've been most of this week trying to figure this part out.
No, okay, so. But would
so
that
this
make
is the
sense?
other part.
Would you start at 0 from the moment of birth? No, because unless you're going to say that, unless you're counting the amount of time that the sheep is in the womb, that doesn't make any. No.
You're asking the same questions, Red. I'm like, this doesn't. Okay, I try. The only thing that's come close to making any sense so far was Sharon's suggestion.
Right. No, and I agree with that, but I'm just trying to figure out how they would start from 0. What would be their 0? If it's 0 from the moment the calf is delivered, then 1 year of its life would be 1 year of its life. Okay, it would be day 0 would be the day it was born. Okay, and then no matter what, you're going 0 to 1. But if they counted year 0, but then how would they know when it was conceived? Well, because you're actually only mating the animals when you want them to mate. So you know when it's happening.
You know what?
So your first year is a 0 year, your 2nd year is a 1 year, and your third first year is a first.
Really easy to lie about too, and since that religion is very much about lying, I might cheat a few months.
But this is exactly what I'm getting at. I think they need a Zakat lawyer to say, oh, you got to pay this, you got to pay that. And I think that's what this encourages, someone to come out and decide what you have to pay. And I could see this creating huge problems with your people who can't read Arabic, who are farmers, and they're getting told, you got to pay this, you got to pay that. They don't really have a choice. And if you can't read Arabic, you can't argue, and you just give in. And this is where I see them. I just see this being huge. This response is, I mean, this is huge. When you look at the size of this, to one guy's writing to a farmer, he's responding to a farmer. And this kind of blew my mind. We were down here talking about the condition of 1 year passes the nisab. Okay. And we're still trying to figure out, we don't have an exact reasoning, but your first year could be considered year 0 all the way through. Your 2nd year can be, okay, by the time you get to 2 years old, you're now considered 1 year old. Why? Yeah. Don't ask me to explain it. That's the best explanation that I think we might be able to use. It's just very, very confusing. Yeah. 2 preconditions must exist in order for the offspring to be included: that the offspring be born before the end of the Zakat year, even if only for a moment. When the offspring is born after the haul or before it did not fully exit the mother after the haul, it'll be counted for the Zakat for the following year. And this is where, again, how do you define these things? So you have to know, again, you have to record the birth dates of everything that lives on your farm. And the only things you don't have to count birth dates for are those animals that work. However, what happens when they no longer work? You've got an old camel, you've got something that, okay, we no longer need this, we no longer need that. You don't need those jobs for this thing or that thing. Oh, now there's a payable, so now we could end up having to pay on. Yeah, I mean, all you have to do is say, well, the cow gives milk, or this, we're getting, like you talk about sheep. All the sheep we're using their fleece. Okay, I mean, you can think about all the things you don't have to pay zakat on that way.
Well, no,
Working
so
animals.
that's interesting. Is there anything in this? Okay, yeah. So once the animal has reached the end of its life, they put the animal in a retirement home, aka glue factory. You know what I mean? Do they get depreciation on it? Okay, do they depreciate? Like a car, like a piece of machinery.
Well, they don't have to pay. They don't get any freebies off that because it's a wealth tax. So you have to hurl down to a certain amount of money for a year that way. So if you got paid, it's not, you're not, the only person paying any form of income tax is the farmer, but they're holding on to, it's just like you get an extra year to figure out what to do.
Here's something interesting that, a lot of people have noticed this. But in the Quran, there are no agricultural laws or animal husbandry laws. You know what I mean? There are no, nothing like that. When you go to the Old Testament, it tells you how to plant your fields. It tells you, to leave one fallow for every several years. It tells you crop rotation. It tells you how to treat and raise your animals. It tells you how to actually naturally select the animals that you want through natural selection. You know what I'm saying? Okay, to selectively breed. Okay, the animal that you want for this. And there's nothing like that in the Quran. Or actually, I don't even think in the Hadiths, because they weren't an agricultural society. They were just raiders and pillagers and plunderers, so they had no need for it.
Well, the history of Islam reveals that the Muslims were not great agriculturalists. That what they do is they take over one area first, and they get a hold of the properties, and these large farms, date farms, is what they're talking about. And this is after a significant battle. Okay, they win. They get this land. The next year, the farm is destroyed. The date trees are dead. So the next time they have this huge battle and they get farmland, oh, let's leave you in charge. Oh, the people who ran the farm. You're just going to pay us so much every year to be allowed to live. Oh.
Exactly. And that actually translates.
Make good income to them.
No, that actually translates down into modern day situation. Look at what happened with Gaza and the what do you call it, the greenhouses they had. The Jewish greenhouse in Gaza, in that territory, produce a great portion of the produce for Europe. They were extremely profitable, extremely thick. They actually hired the Gaza or the Palestinian workers. Well, as soon and they actually worked out an agreement with the Gazanians where they could take over these greenhouses. Within 6 months, they ran them into the ground. They were totally destroyed.
Yes.
Because even though these people had worked in them, once the management was removed and they put in the Hamas management that didn't know how to manage, they ran it into the ground. Because,
and that's almost everything that existed in Gaza. It's like Islam can't. I mean, this is the kind of math they do that has to do with agriculture, it's kind of concerning. Hello, content.
Seriously, if you're a Muslim country and you follow the Quran and the Sunnah and the Hadiths and the Tafsirs and the Islamic jurisprudence, without exception, then you will destroy your own people. You will be backwards. You will be isolationist. You will be, no one will want to trade with you. You will have nothing to trade. Okay. And it will destroy your people, as has been proven. Anyway, I'm sorry to interject on that. But
so, Houston, there's a difference here. Okay, he wrote this means they get to keep the stud camel away long enough. So studs do not count under zakat because they are working animals. This is the one I had an issue with. Tithe on animals was to pass under the rod, and God gets the 10th. Okay, there's a difference. God got the first fruits, and he gets a 10th. Okay, so keep that in mind. He gets the first fruits. So the first of the first of the flock, God got that. So it's first fruits was part of that. So if you were your first birth of the first lamb, yeah, that's what that was the difference between Adam bringing something. Sorry, between Abel and Cain. I'm not sure that that's exact. I mean, it says they both brought the first fruits, and it was the intent of the heart. But that's another thing. First fruits, animal handled this way. Yes, that is true also. Yes.
And if I could just interject something on this, okay, this is very important, actually. Okay, so first of all, at the temple, there's a great book. I can't. Temple Practices.
Yes.
Yeah. Have you read? Oh no, it's great. No, it details. Okay, from actually, like it says in Hebrews, from as soon as first dawn's light, blood was flowing in that temple. Okay, and everything is cleansed by blood, and it goes over in great detail. Okay, of how they would sacrifice and how they would do this. Now, let's put this into a realistic perspective. The first fruits of the temple, yes, a lot of the meat was burnt up till it was useless, but the rest of the animal was carved up, and either the high priests that were performing temple duty, they got the cut. Okay, that was their food, or honestly, it was sold off. It was actually that's why Jewish butchers are the most highest perceived butchers in the world, because they're Levites. Okay, this is no, seriously, I don't mean what, but it is.
Yes, but anyway. And this is the other question that we need to point out. At no time have we talked yet about who receives zakat. We haven't even covered that. This is just the collection. So keep thinking about that. Who is receiving these? We're talking about animals being given. We're not talking about sacrifices.
One more point I wanted to finish up on the sacrifice and the shedding of blood. Everything. I mean, if you brought a grain offering, the grain offering is put on the blood, put on the meat of the altar that's being cooked up and burnt up. Everything was cleansed by blood. And this is the point throughout the entire Old Testament. The remission of sins, any sin, can only be achieved by the shedding of blood, for it has been given to you as an atonement for your sins. And that is the key point, and that is what Islam does not have. That is what is desperately missing. There is no atonement for sins. But anyway, I'm sorry. I'll keep
on. I think this is part of what we're talking about, and their concept is, I mean, they want to give money. They say it's a 2.5%, and yet they're charging much more. This is again, I spent a lot of time looking this stuff up. I know this is just one answer from one source, but I mean, I've gone through 3 different books on Sharia, and none of it really makes a lot of sense, which to me is frustrating. I won't say that Sharia has made a lot of sense, but it's easier to understand than this stuff so far. It hasn't necessarily made sense, but it was easy to understand. Let's get back to this part. Livestock are considered free grazing, and they are considered stall fed. The sounder of the two views is that they are free grazing means that zakat would indeed be obligatory. Okay, so if something's fed in the stall, okay, so now you have the guy who's coming around to collect zakat, and your free grazing livestock are now in a stall being fed. The guy who is collecting zakat now sees your livestock being grain fed. Is that deception? I mean, is that what they're telling people to do? I mean,
So
that's what it kind of says to me.
So wait, you bring them up for the finishing to be grain fed, and then you don't have to pay zakat, or only when they're out free ranging you have to pay zakat.
Well, if these animals free graze, you're supposed to charge zakat. They're supposed to pay a zakat on them. But if they are being stall fed, I mean, I'm not a farmer. I'm sitting here reading this, and I'm thinking, that's my way out. Everybody, whenever the guy who charges me zakat, tells me what I have to pay, comes, and as long as they're inside the barn eating that day, that's a good thing. I don't have to pay as much, is what I would be thinking.
Wow.
Yes,
so
and that's
wait.
what Houston said. Grain feed them only on the day the tax guy shows up. That's right, exactly what I'm thinking.
Or Houston, you could time your finishing, okay, to the time where the day zakat comes up. So you want to feed them on grain to fatten them up, okay, to get them really nice and juicy. Well, they probably didn't know that back then. But anyway, but yeah, no, that makes no sense. That's so all you got to do is just bring them into the stalls and
feed them grain, saying they're grain fed.
Wow, there's your tax. Wow, this
tax evasion. I mean, it's in Zakat. It's in Sharia. I didn't make this up, and this is a legal opinion from Islam Q&A. Again, if the livestock are stall fed for most of the zakat year, then no zakat will be due. If they are stall fed for less than that, one must consider when they are stall fed for a duration in which they could have survived without incurring a manifest harm. Wait a minute. So what you're saying is you don't have an answer for, as long as they, I mean, this is like, please lie. That's what it's telling you.
No, so here's the deduction. Well, look at this. Okay. If they are stall fed for less than one must consider when they are stall fed for a duration in which they could have survived without incurring a manifest harm had they not been stall fed, then zakat will be due. Otherwise, it will not. So, in other words, if you're feeding them out in the field because you don't got a stall, and it could cause them harm because there are storms and there's flood, there is cold, there is tornadoes and hail and all kinds of stuff.
So as long as you got a good excuse, you're fine.
Exactly. My animals were suffering out in the wilderness in the back 40 when we was feeding them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's exactly what we're getting at. Now, this next paragraph, we're getting back into Sharia. The Sharia from the Reliance of the Traveler. Sheikh Nukeller is one of the translators of Reliance of the Traveler. He says that it is religiously more precautionary and of greater benefit to the poor to follow Imam Malik on this issue, as Malik holds the zakat is obligatory whenever one possesses the nisab for 1 year, whether or not the animals are work animals or have been grazed. Or so Malik actually, I think he's more of a farmer. He understands pasture. He understands pay the zakat, pay the zakat, pay the zakat. That's all he's saying. You pay it regardless. You're not going to get a way out with Malik's belief. But if you're following the Shafi, if you're following yes, you're stuck.
Well, no. Look what he's saying. It's an honorary position. Hey, because it's religiously more precautionary. In other words, if you don't want to be struck down by Allah because you're not paying him his cut, then you want to err on the side of caution and just pay the zakat like Malik says. But hey, if you think you's okay, if you think you's good, then you can follow Shafi and only you can skim off the top because Allah, he gonna look the other way.
What's bad is it actually looks like that's what's being encouraged. Non-work animals. The fourth and final condition is the livestock not be work animals. Now here's another way out of paying zakat. And the livestock not be work animals used for plowing and the like, such as riding and transport. Okay. And they do have an allowance for those animals that are studs. Oh, well, let's see. Working animals. Okay, these animals are used for, they work by producing milk.
Yeah, actually, the bull is no, your bull or your horse, your stud horse. Okay, that's your prized possession. If you
Yes,
are working in the cattle industry or working in the horse industry, the sheep
but you don't
industry,
pay zakat on that.
whatever. No, that's your stud. That's no. They are worth more. Though they live a pristine life. Okay, all
Yes.
right. The male animals that are not gilded, that are ones for breeding, they lead a pristine life and they are extremely valued. Unlike the cow,
And that's
always
the
choose the
truth. And
cow.
it's just so we're going to get back into Reliance the Traveler, and you're going to see why I went into that, because we might be going back to that passage again. I give credit to Islam Q&A trying to sort this out. I'm not a fan of Islam Q&A, but trying to find an answer and trying to understand this, I understand why there are zakat lawyers, why there are zakat accountants, things like this, because it's confusing. And I think it's purposely confusing, but at the same time, I think it's made so people can cheat Allah out of money. Wait a minute. Now, is Allah the one who gets zakat? Where is zakat supposed to go? Now, if you go to social studies class today in an average ninth grade class across the country, in the United States or in Canada, I'll say, you will have someone tell you that zakat is the second pillar. No, sorry, the third pillar. So you have salat, so you have shahada, you have salat, and now you have zakat. And they tell you zakat means giving to the poor. That's not what zakat means. That's not at all what zakat means. And you're going to see that when we start talking about where zakat goes. As we've been seeing, is zakat has been a wealth tax, and it's quasi income tax on a farmer, and it's 2.5% when we're doing the wealth tax, but it's up to 20% when we're doing the income tax. And the only one who usually gets 20% is Muhammad, because he's collecting for Allah. Yeah, that one always seems to get me, that he's collecting for Allah. Okay. Sharon, can you read H2.4, please?
Yeah. For cattle, the minimum on which zakat is payable is 30 head, for which it is obligatory to pay a yearling, meaning a male calf, in its second year, though a female may take its place, being worth more. The zakat due on 40 head is a 2-year-old female that has entered its third year. A male will not suffice. The zakat on 60 head is 2 yearling males. Zakat on additional numbers is figured in the same way. On 30 head, a yearling male, and on 40 head, a 2-year-old female, according to which of the two alternatives accommodates the last 10 heads. Oh boy, why do they make it so confusing?
That's part of the issue here. So notice I underlined a female may take its place, being worth more. Okay. Zakat due on 40 head is a 2-year-old female that's entered. Again, I had this underlined because I was going nuts trying to figure this out. And if we figure you're at the end of your first year, it's called 0 year, and your end of your first year, end of your second year, it's called year 1. Maybe that kind of makes sense now, but it's still enough to drive you nuts trying to figure this out. Like, it does not make sense, and you're gonna see some stuff that I'm looking at that just makes you go, what? I think some of this, by the way, when you look at the Arabic, it reveals they're not looking at these things a second year, a 2-year-old being in the third year. Some of the Arabic doesn't say anything like that, and you're like, what did they do this just to make us look stupid and confused? Yes, they did. Because some of the Arabic translates without those statements, and that just kind of And it just kind of makes me think, what was the purpose of making us feel stupid? Well, I mean, this was written not for the non-Muslim to read. It's written for the Muslim to read. Oh, so they're trying to make other Muslims feel stupid. Ooh. What kind of statement is that? All right, we're going back to H2.5. Eric, are you with us or are you listening? I'm guessing.
I'm driving, Paul.
Okay. All right. So, Rad, would you like to read 2.5?
Sure. For sheep or goats in the Arabic, ghanam meaning both. Interesting. The minimum on which zakat is payable is 40. On which the minimum 40 what? Okay, but on which 40 dinar? No, honestly, I don't know. It is 40. What's the 40?
You're asking.
Yeah, what's the 40?
Yes, you're asking good questions.
Anyway, is that the weight? I mean, no, is it the whatever? Anyway, on which it is obligatory to pay a shah, meaning
which is a sheep or a goat,
meaning a 1-year-old sheep in the second year, or a 2-year-old goat in its third year. And that would we got to go back up to the okay.
Do you see why I'm saying some of it doesn't have it? Those notes were put in, and it wouldn't be there if it wasn't there. It would make sense.
Yeah, the zakat on 121 sheep or goats is 2 shahs. So that 2 shahs, I don't know what did it say? What was the one shah?
A total 1 shah is 1 sheep or goat in their concept of a second-year goat, basically.
But wait, I'm thinking the shah is the amount of money that you got to pay.
No, it's not. It's the amount of animals.
Wait. Okay, I see what you're. Okay, I see what it's saying here.
So now,
Wait. Okay, I see what they're saying. So the zakat on 121 sheep. So if you own 121 sheep, that's like really specific. I mean, like,
yes.
You know what I mean? I mean, why are you doing 121? Why not just do 120 or 130? You know what I mean? What's with the 121? But anyway, that doesn't make anyway.
Because the one out of the, I understand why they did that. So you have one extra. 120 would be. So now that 121, the 121th one becomes the shah.
Right, okay, I see.
So actually, you would have 2, so you're down to 119. So yeah.
So you're raising your wow. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, so you're sacrificing 1 sheep. Who gets the sheep? Are you sacrificing it to? I guess you're giving it
with
to
121. You're sacrificing 2, so you're down to 119.
Really? Okay, 2 shahs. Well, then that still doesn't make any sense. Then it should be 122 if you want to keep it even. You know what I mean? I mean, no, that's
really... I think it's their love of odd numbers is what it is.
Yeah, no, that's right. No, that's right. They don't like even numbers, right? Is that what I forgot?
That's it's one of the things I never understand. But there's a love of odd numbers in Islam.
Which is opposite to everyone.
I want you to think about this. Fraction-wise, 2 into 121. That is a really, I mean, percentage-wise, what are we talking about?
I'd have to like let me get that. Hold on.
I'm betting it's not 2.5%.
121. That's 0.01. That's 0.01. No, that's 10%.
No, 0.01 would be that's 1%.
Oh, well, you're right.
0.1 would be, yeah.
That's 1%. 0.00. Yeah, 1%. That's right. Yeah, so that's 1%. So zakat 120.
Wait, it was a 0.00 or is it a point?
No, it's point. I'm sorry. Yeah, I read it wrong. It's 0.01. So you're right.
Okay, so that's 1%.
Yeah.
Wow.
1%.
So the farmer here is paying less than 1% of a sheep and goat herder pays 1% on zakat. Okay.
Well, the zakat on 201 sheep or goats is 3 on 4. Oh, what now? All of a sudden we got an even number? It's 4. Oh, wow, that's interesting. Okay. And for every additional 100, now we're in the zakat is 1 shah. Wait, see, how were
Because you
they
have
coming up with these numbers?
400 sheep.
Yeah, look how arbitrary it goes. Look at how arbitrary it goes. So it starts with 121, and really odd number. Okay, all right. You pay 2 shahs on your first 121 sheep. Okay, if you have 201 sheep, okay, or goats, then you just got to pay an additional shah. So if you increase your productivity by another 80 sheep or goats, you're paying just an additional one. But 400 sheep or goats, no, seriously, if you double, okay, actually no, quadruple your output, you're only paying 4 shahs. So you're actually paying less. So the more you have, the less you pay. No, look at that. That's the ratio.
That's why that's what I'm getting at. Is I'm not good at the math, and I look at this.
The more you have, the less you pay. The more you have, the less you pay.
It's not an exact science, and that is Islam, because Allah doesn't know math.
so Islam hates the poor farmer, but the rich farmer, he pays less, substantially less. If you do the ratios, yeah, I mean you're only paying 400 sheep. I'm only paying 4.
Okay, John has me laughing. All right, we got to put this up. If Mary had a little lamb whose fleece was white as Moses, I wonder how much she had to pay. That stuff makes me think. All right. Okay, Houston, wait a minute. We'll go up to Elizabeth. 1,400 shekels to 12,000 shekels, 3,333. I missed that one. Okay, we're going back here. According to Itmar Marcus of Palestinian Media Watch, martyr families typically. Okay, yeah, I've been watching that, Elizabeth. I'm going to share a story later on that's not on that one, but I will say this: Itmar Marcus keeps track of that stuff, and he is the best on that information.
By the way,
so you're listening to the right guy.
By the way, that's your U.S. tax dollars work. That's what we fund.
That's what Biden wants to finance. He wants to give money to people who kill.
Well, it's not just under Biden. That's what we've been funding, except under Donald Trump. But no, that's what we've been funding throughout the years. We fund that.
Well, technically, we weren't financing it. It got stopped for a little while, even under Clinton, due to certain people in Congress stopping it. So it got stopped by a congresswoman, and I don't remember her name, but yeah, she's been stopped.
Oh, really?
Stopped it, and then it got. Yeah, there's certain payments that we were significantly stopping, and then it really got cut off under Trump for a good while. All right, let me come back here. Okay, here we go. Here's another part of this. Sakari Bakari, Book 24, Obligatory Charity Tax. Again, Zakat, it's not, I don't know where they get the idea of where they're telling people this is charity. And this is where I think maybe the word zakat actually means charity. I'm not, again, I don't know Arabic, but I'm telling you, this is not charity. When you see where this money goes, it has nothing to do with charity. I mean, it does, a small portion goes to charity. Wait till you see how small. That'll blow your mind.
Does it say charity in Arabic, or is that just for us?
Let me try.
Make us think that's so nice.
I think it could. I just think the word is the word zakat. Actually, anybody want to test that for me? I mean, I think I did that. You know what? I'll go back here. I have it on the first one. All right. Oh. Okay. And I didn't translate that one. Let me do this real quick. And
you know how they are?
I think zakat is its own special word. And I don't think it necessarily translates is the other thing. Let me just put this up on my Google Translate, and it just says the addressee must pay zakat. Who must pay zakat? It doesn't translate zakat into charity, which I find of interest.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. It's you know how they are.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay.
Yes.
Okay, real quick, going back to that whole sheep Shaw thing. Okay.
Yes.
If they were to stick to the original form of 121 sheep, you pay 2 Shaws. By the time you got to 400 sheep, you would have to be paying 6 Shaws, 6 to 7 Shaws, because you pay 6 Shaws at 121 times 3. Hold on, I got the math here. Hold on. Okay, hold on. 121 times 3 is 363. So if you were consistent, okay, with 2 Shaws for every 121 sheep you had, you would be paying 6 Shaws. Okay? All right? Because 3 times 2 is 6, right? But because it's 400 sheep, okay, maybe a Shaw and a half, I don't know, okay? Or a half a Shaw, which would be 7 Shaws. You know what I'm saying? Because you got to make up for the additional. But
so the larger shepherd has to pay less.
Pay less, definitely. Substantially less. Half less, like 50% less. If you think about it. Well, hold on. Wait. Hold on. 6, 4. Yeah, substantially less. Definitely.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to read this next one. I'm going to skip down because my brain is just frozen on some of this stuff. All right, H2.7. Listen to this one. New offspring of a zakat payable quantity of livestock that are born during the year. So again, this is why I'm saying it's income tax, not wealth tax. Are born during the year are counted for the zakat of the year their mothers are currently in, no matter whether their mothers survive or die. Thus, if one owned 40 sheep or goats, which gave birth to 40 young a month before the year's end, but then the 40 mothers died, one zakat on the offspring would be 1 shah. Don't ask me to explain that one. Math is not my suit, but this just makes me... Okay, you got 40 different sheep. They've born 40 different sheep every month. And then 40 mothers just die, and you're still... That's 40 times... Well, a lunar year is 11 months, right? So, yeah, that's still... It's too confusing to me. Math-wise, and this is why I'm thinking an average farmer would be sitting here trying to figure things out and ask for someone to come tell them how much they have to pay. Oh, I'm going to have all the sheep working that day. I'm going to have something for them to do physically. Or they're all going to be grain-fed that day. That's what it is. They're all going to be grain-fed that day. Another one they didn't want us to see. Again, I'm having this translated. I will bring it back to you next week. Some of this is just kind of surprising. All right. 2.9.
That might be the sex with the go part.
That's not... Okay, I looked. The reason why I didn't translate these, I tried with Google Translate, and it was so... It didn't make any sense when I did it with Google Translate. If it's right, it's nonsensical. And that bothers me. I mean, are they not putting things in because they don't make any sense and they're ashamed because of how badly it's written? And actually, Usama has shown me some passages in here that it just doesn't make sense. So that's not a surprise, but it's just... It says something that Allah doesn't make sense. Because again, this is supposed to be Allah's law. Allah doesn't do math well, is what we keep seeing. We saw it in the Quran. He can't do fractions. We've seen it here. He can't have a constant payable amount. He can't have a consistent payable amount. And the wealthy get wealthier. Oh, Yeah, Democrats tend not to like that. H2.9, if a group of livestock are all female or are both male and female, then only a female animal may be paid as zakat, except as mentioned above. For 30 cattle, when a yearling male is acceptable. Then we have H2.10. If a group of livestock are all male, then a male animal may be paid as zakat. Now, I was looking at the large amount of Arabic here. And I'm going to go back again. I didn't have translation time, but I'm looking at this piece. See how much more Arabic there is than words over here? That has me wondering, what were they hiding? And you'll see this amount, this little thing here. That's usually a parenthesis or a comment. And there's nothing here. So it looks to me like they put something in parentheses or comment and they didn't put it in English. And my question would be, why did they do that? All right. Going back to Sharon, can you read 2.11, please?
2.11. If all the livestock are below the minimum age, that may be given as zakat. Then one of them is given anyway. Wait a minute, what?
You're not wrong. That's what had me thinking. That's why it's underlined.
But if the herd I'm sorry. Go on.
So you're not wrong. It doesn't make sense.
No.
If they're below the minimum age that must be given as a zakat, then one of them must be given. Wait a minute. You told us that you don't pay zakat on this, but you do.
Yeah. That's weird. Okay. But if the herd is mixed, with only some of them underage, then only an animal of the acceptable age may be paid. Okay, well that kind of makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. But if it's entirely young, okay, you bought a flock, or you bought a certain amount of cattle. It's you're starting your business, and now you have to pay a wealth tax on the business because you're starting out. But you were told that you wouldn't have to pay it if you bought them at a certain age, but now you have to because they get you coming and going is what it sounds like the IRS. All right. Can you read 2.12, Sharon?
Yeah. Oh boy. If the animals of the herd are defective, an animal is taken which is of the average defectiveness of the group. Defective meaning with defects that permit return for refund when sold as merchandise.
So you give God something that's returnable. Okay. I want my deposit. Let me give him the recyclable. Okay. Maybe I should be laughing, but that just does not make sense. Again, if you're worshiping a god, you would give him your best. I get what they're saying is that something's defective, but you're going to give God something defective? Again, even if that's all you have, really, you think God wants something defective?
Well,
it's quite a statement.
I see their God as that 7th century greedy guy they call the messenger or prophet.
Yes.
So,
it's exactly what it is. It's greed. This is a statement of greed.
Yeah. That's one of the 7 deadly sins. Okay. Should I go on?
Yeah, go ahead and read the last one there.
If the herd is composite, such as sheep and goats, then either kind may be paid as zakat, though the value of the animal must be hold on, can I start that over again?
Yeah.
Then either kind may be paid as zakat, though the value of the animal given must correspond to the average value of the members of the herd. Okay, well that kind of makes sense.
Okay, we're kind of, the herd is composite, such as sheep and goats. Either kind might be paid as Zakat of the value of the animal given must. Okay, that somewhat makes sense, which is weird. The fact that it actually somewhat makes sense after you're told one thing, then you're told another thing. Okay, it's nice to have something make sense. the math hasn't made sense. Rad is far better in math than I will ever be. So I didn't pick up that the cost was going down in Zakat. We're now down to 1%. Oh, you great farmer who shepherd you that you have a larger flock, you pay less. Oh, isn't that what they're screaming about Trump doing? He's paying less. Yet he paid over $1 million in tax in New York State. Oh, gee, guess why he's no longer here? And they don't want him back. Too bad for them. All right. H 2.14. Eric, you're with us. Would you like to join us in reading 2.14?
Yeah, sure. I was going to grab my book, but that's okay. The following are not taken as zakat unless the owner wishes to give them. 1, a pregnant female, because of its superiority. 2, one that has given birth because of the high yield of milk. Or 3, a stud. As for the insemination, the owner would suffer its loss. 4, a superior quality animal. Or 5, or one fattened for eating.
So these are excuses not to pay zakat, or are these excuses on what not to pay as zakat?
You just spoke of this earlier, not giving your first fruits to God, and this is exactly where you're keeping your first fruits and giving God your scraps. That's you look at a superior quality animal. That's when you sacrifice to God or you give it to the temple. That's what you did. You gave it your best, and you gave your best animal.
Yes.
And this is sick.
Yeah. So they're keeping their best for themselves. Yeah. Oh, I am paying zakat on that one. That one's not going to make the mark. Okay, that's too good. Okay, we're going to give you the runt of the litter. We're going to, okay, it still qualifies for paying. All right, God doesn't need that much. All right, again, zakat, it's a wealth tax, but on the farmer, it's an income tax in many ways. I look at these are excuses not to give God his due. But again, Allah's not a God. I think he's really insignificant, and he's proving himself that he doesn't like first fruits. He doesn't like what should be given, and he thinks he's better for it. Well, I got bad news for you, Allah. Christians and Jews give 10%. Guess what? They give what? Think about that. That's a lot more than 2.5. Yeah. All right. Okay, Red, would you like to read 2.15? I'm not sure if you know your mic is off. All right. I can start. Okay, something happened there. Okay. Zakat on jointly owned property or ventures with shared built facilities. 2 people pay zakat jointly on a single person. Think about this. 2 people pay zakat jointly as a single person if they jointly own a zakat payable amount of livestock or something else. Okay, that kind of makes sense. Such as fruit, grain, money. You buy something together. Okay, so they can't. This kind of the concept of being a corporate or being a family kind of covers this. Or when the zakat, or when the property is not jointly owned, or when each owner has, for example, 20 head of sheep, a head of a herd amounting to the zakat minimum of 40, but when they share the same place to bed them down, to gather them before the grazing, to pasture, water, or milk them, or share the same stud. I mean, they're sharing all this stuff. Okay, so they pay the same thing. Okay, it's just too much to say. It just kind of weirds you out when they're just saying all this stuff. It's really nothing. I didn't learn anything there. We have zakat on crops. Notice 3.1 is not in Arabic. It's not there. We're skipping it. 3.2. Sharon, could you read 3.2, please?
There is no zakat on grains or legumes except the staple types that people cultivate, dry, and store, such as wheat, barley, millet, rice, lentils, chickpeas, broad beans, grass peas, and Sinai wheat. There is no zakat on fruit except for raw dates and grapes. The zakat on grapes being taken in raisins and on dates in cured dates. There is no zakat on vegetables, nor is there zakat on seasonings such as cumin or coriander, since the aim in using them is preparation of food, not nourishment.
I think this is funny. We're starting to discover what Muhammad's tastes are like. See, he charges more for things he likes more. One of the things we learned from reading the Hadith is that Muhammad likes honey. He charges 20% for honey. Oh, guess where that 20% comes? Right to his house. Ah, okay. Yeah, Muhammad gets 20% of honey, but again, it's supposed to be 2.5%, but he gets his due. This is just, what do you think Muhammad's favorite foods are from reading this? Do you think he likes legumes?
See. No.
So, okay.
Yeah.
He's not a fan of chickpeas. All right. So he's not a hummus fan. That's what I'm guessing. There's no zakat on raw dates or grapes, so he's not a date fan. Okay. Zakat on grapes being taken. Oh, wait, there's like zakat on grapes being taken in his raisins. So I guess Muhammad likes dates and raisins. I mean, he likes, not dates, but grapes. He likes raisins, so he's going to have a zakat on that. Nor is there zakat on seasonings. I think he might be the only one with the seasonings, so maybe he's not charging zakat on that. You sit there trying to figure out what's the purpose and intent behind this. I can't see it except for this is something he likes and there's something he doesn't like. It's personal taste. This is kind of a personal taste thing. There's no reasoning behind it. If it's personal taste, that means that Allah is not the one making the rules. It's some human.
I like John's comment in chat. He said he liked his 7 adua dates a day.
Well,
I think those are those dates that it says if you're poisoned or something, you eat these days and it'll take away the poisoning.
Oh, yeah.
That makes sense.
Oh, so that was his purpose. Okay, that would make sense. Yeah, his adua dates. Yeah, don't tax those adua dates.
Really? I might die. I got poisoned. Pay the tax.
Well, he got poisoned anyway, so it's not going to help him.
Well, I wonder if he ate those dates. I mean, if he would have ate those dates, he would have been okay. But
my bet is he had dates every day since he ate that poisoned meat, and nothing helped him. Oh, so his concept was a lie. Oh my gosh, what a surprise! Did you read
what Houston said? As soon as Muhammad died,
they had wars over whether zakat was still payable or was yes, and this is the reason for the Ridda Wars. And this is why I say that when they call it an apostate war, Ridda War is what they call it. They call this the apostate wars. No, it was not a Ridda War. It was actually all about zakat. It was not about anything else. It was all about zakat. When you read Islamic histories, you learn this was never, ever about people leaving Islam.
Well, if they're leaving Islam, that's the point. I mean, that's the point, Paul. If they're leaving Islam, they're not paying their zakat. So therefore, you have to bring them back to Islam to ensure that they pay their zakat. So you're absolutely right. It was all about the money. It was all about the zakat. But if you're not a Muslim, you don't have to pay the zakat. And
the difference is in Islam, you have to pay. So in the United States, you give your allegiance to a country. You're not giving your allegiance to the president of the United States. Every 4 years, we elect a new president, and that would mean you'd have to, under the Islamic belief, every time you get a new leader, you have to give a new statement of allegiance. Our concept is a lot different. So when Muhammad takes over, when Muhammad dies, they had to pick a new leader because Muhammad didn't set that up, because he didn't know he was going to die, especially in a way that he told everybody that would show that he was a false prophet. But that's what he did. And he didn't have someone set up to take over. So they wanted to stop paying Zakat. Okay. Why should they give Muhammad or Abu Bakr what they were giving Muhammad? He's much more insignificant than Muhammad. So why should they pay the same amount? They just didn't want to pay anymore. They didn't mind having the same Allah. They just didn't want to pay. That's what the Ridda Wars are all about. It was never about Islam, because the records of Islamic warfare during the Ridda Wars. They'd go there. They'd watch and see if they came out for morning prayer. If they came out for morning prayer, and then they wouldn't kill them. Okay. They'd come back and say, okay, pay up or else. It's something to think about. All right. H3.3. One is obliged to pay Zakat as soon as one possesses the Zakat payable amount of grain. Oh, wait a minute. We're not. That's an income tax. That's not a wealth tax. Or when the ripeness or wholeness of a Zakat payable amount of dates or grapes, we're talking about fruit. Again, we're talking about income tax. We're not talking wealth tax. So this would be 2.5%. I want to know how they determine. Okay, you're paying fruits is what it sounds like. Okay. Didn't we just read? This is the part that got me. Didn't we just read you don't have to pay Zakat on fruits? Did we just read that? Look at down here.
Yeah.
There is no Zakat on fruits except for raw dates and grapes. Okay. There's no, okay, so raw, okay. So these are the raw grapes, okay. All right, raw. Really, are you going to get dates, something cooked? Are they going to get cooked dates, preserved dates? Okay. Yeah. Things are just kind of weird. All right. And go on. Zakat payable amounts for crops. We're continuing. Let's see. Eric, can you read 3.4, please?
Yep. Okay. The minimal quantity on which Zakat is payable for crops is 609.84 kilograms of net dried weight, free of husk or chaff, though for rice and sanai wheat, which are stored in the kernel, the Zakat minimum includes husk, is 1,219.68 kilograms of dried weight. Zakat is not taken from grain until it has been winnowed or made free from straw, nor from fruits until they are dried, made into raisins and dates. The produce for the entire year, i.e. the agricultural year, is added together in calculating the Zakat minimum. When, for example, the season's first crop alone is less than the Zakat minimum. When one crop is harvested after another due to variable differences or the location of the two fields in the same year and of the same kind of crop, such as spring wheat, winter wheat, Zakat is paid from them as if they were a single quantity. Different varieties of grain are also calculated additively. Is that what that says? Additively?
That's what it says. Yep.
additively when harvested at the same time, though the fruit or grain of one year is not added to the fruit or grain of a different year. Grapes are not calculated cumulatively with dates, nor wheat with barley, as they are different from one another.
Wow. That's a whole lot to say, but doesn't it look like the farmer is paying a whole lot of income tax here?
I'm just going to be a pig farmer and just forget about it all. I'm not.
So are your pigs considered working animals?
Well, it doesn't. As a matter of fact, I got one on the grill right now. That's why I had to leave real quick.
So he's working.
Yeah, he's working for me anyway. A couple of his chops are.
Oh my gosh. I don't know. I mean, some of this stuff you sit there like, whoa, okay.
Looks like Allah's hungry. Allah's really hungry. He wants. Yeah.
I mean, this is free food. I mean, this is free. I mean, if this is the kind of stuff he's charging, if Muhammad's charging that, he's getting all this free food, and he gives it out to himself and whoever he wants to give it out to. It doesn't against.
I just got a quick question. When we consider Christian canon law, is any of this? I mean, is it anything close to this? To what they're asking? Just in paying your tithes and offerings. Do you know of any church or any denomination that requires this type of succinct clarity on, you got a grape, you got a date, or a raisin, you got to know the difference between a grape and a raisin, because are you really kidding me? I mean, seriously, I mean, do you really need to codify something like this?
So I've been in churches that are about as rural as you can get, and the churches don't have a significant amount of money, but they're getting their. Again, it's taught in these churches. I would say Baptist churches probably taught pretty well that what the 10% tithe is for. What tithe is for? Again, that's 10%.
Right, that's the 10%. But what I'm saying is, even let's say at 10% of what? 10% of your sheep, 10% of your goats, 10% of your raisins, 10% of your grape. Okay, fine, 10%. But
because
why do you have to go further to delineate exactly what is what? Only if you have the spirit to defraud or shirk your responsibility as a giver, or actually giving freely with a joyful heart. It's just the absolute opposite of what we in Christianity understand and enjoy. I mean, it is a joy for me every week to drop a set amount of money in that offering plate. It really is.
Yes.
And I don't need somebody and I don't need somebody to tell me, whether or not, whether my corn is in the sheaves or I need to take the husk off. I don't need people to tell me that crap.
That's part of the stuff that makes me. I think it was Red and it might have been Larry. I mean, who's actually going to, or Kufar? I mean, who's going to be their count, or you? Who's going to be the guy that's sitting there? Okay, you pay this, you pay that, you do. I mean, just like we're talking about for prayers. I mean, okay, who's going to be the guy checking? Okay, you got nasty stuff on your clothing. Your prayers are going to be invalidated. Oh, you're too naked. Sorry, you can't pray here.
Who's going to be the Zakat Nazi, or who's going to be the prayer Nazi? Is essentially what. I mean, but they would fit in well with. Never mind. I'm not.
Well, yeah. I mean, it just makes you think what's really going on here. I mean, and this is, as Red was alluding to earlier, it's like a mafia tax.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Here we go. Here's another one. I like the saying, shirk your responsibility takes on a whole new meaning.
That's right.
It's a little dangerous to say, but yeah.
There you go. That's true.
Oh my gosh. Oh, wow.
All right. I got to go flip the chops. I'll be right back.
Okay. All right. I'll read this next one. The Zakat for crops that has been watered without effort, as by rain or the like, is 10% of the crop. Wait a minute. Isn't zakat supposed to be 2.5%? But if it's a crop that Muhammad likes, it's 10% or 20%, like honey. Of the net dried storage weight. And again, he's collecting food. Well, let's think about this. If Mecca really existed, well, there's no farmers there getting anything. Oh, let's tax some farmers someplace and bring the food into this place that has no food. How could Mecca exist if there was no farmers? Ooh, start asking those questions. All right, I'm going to skip on. This is a hard section for me because, first of all, I don't like math. Just Kufar is like, how could you do that? Math is so wonderful. No, that's me. I'm just not great at math. Go back to Rad. Would you like to read 3.6?
Sure, but I was just reading over the last part, and
okay.
So basically, it was saying that I love this part. Can consult an agricultural expert. It actually says that somewhere in there. But anyway, so basically, if your crops are being watered by Allah's abundance, just rain, then you got to pay more money because Allah is giving you the rain. But if you got to do actual irrigation, then you could pay less. And if it's like 50-50, that's what it says. It is more reliable to consult an agricultural experts as to how much the crop's water came from rain and how much came from irrigation. So you got to sit there and work. No, seriously. So now I got to pay some dude? No, think about it. You got to pay extra because you're going to consult the agricultural expert. So now you got to pay him, right? Can you tell me how much you're going to save me on my zakat this year? Ooh, kind of like zakat insurance. Pay the agricultural expert.
Wait. Yeah. If I give you an extra $20, do I have to pay 20 extra less?
I have to pay 25. Exactly. You know what I mean? Can you save me, 10% today if I give you 5 today? Anyway, so 50% of water came from each, for example, one would pay 7.5% of the crop as zakat. Does that mean between? So if you get the guy to say, 50-50, then you're only paying, but why would it? No. Why wouldn't it be if 100% is coming from rain and you're paying 10%, then why, if you do 50% of the work by providing irrigation, why wouldn't it be only 5%? Do you see what I'm saying? They're still saying you're only getting a 2.5 discount here. Anyway, go on to the next one. I'll read it. No, this doesn't make any sense.
Yes, that's the strangeness of this. Yes. All right.
They're just putting out arbitrary numbers. They're not doing. There's no.
Well, Allah doesn't know math, so you can't expect the other Muslims to know it if Allah doesn't know it, right?
Yeah, they still think 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 equals 3. I don't get that. But anyway, all right. Age 3.6. After one has paid the zakat once on a crop, if one is the farmer, there is nothing further due on it. As there is no repetition zakat on one's crops when they are in storage, unlike the repetition of it on money, even if it remains in one's possession for years. Now that is interesting. So, if I have 1 gold dinar, and I gotta pay zakat on that 1 gold dinar, right? But if I still have that,
wait! You gotta go back. You can't. No, it doesn't work that way. Because it's on. This is on crops only. Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. On crops only, but this is what it's saying. Unlike with money. So with money, then you are constantly being taxed on your money that you've already been taxed on. Wow, that's just. Wow, not even the Democrats have thought of that one. Wow.
Well, yes, we have the tax on interest.
Well, this is not even on interest, dude. This is just if you just have 1 gold dinar, right?
Yes.
And you don't spend it, you don't collect interest on it because interest is haram. You don't do anything with it, and you have it for more than, you get taxed 1 year on it, then the next year you still got it. You got to pay tax on that again. Do you see what I'm saying? So this is constantly taxing your savings.
Yep. So it's reason for them not to have savings.
Exactly. Wow.
Or to hide it.
Exactly. Yeah. Which normal sane people do. But then you're going to Allah's torment and torture, and then you're going to Allah's hell. You know what I mean? Anyway.
Yes.
Okay,
right,
so
3.7.
go ahead. Okay, 3.7. It is unlawful for the grower to consume dates or grapes or otherwise dispose of them or sell them before they have been assessed. So you can't even eat
or sell
as how much there is, and the owner made response. So that means, dude, unless you get your Zakat tax guru to come over, your crap is rotting in the fields. Are responsible for that portion to be paid as Zakat, and if he does, he is responsible for the loss. Whoa! And the owner is made responsible for the loss. Whoa! Yeah, that's what it just said there. If he does, he is responsible for the loss, since part of that belongs to the poor. Why does part of it belong to the poor? They didn't do nothing.
Now this is okay. Remember that statement. Again, that's commentary, but it's significant. Okay, they're saying Zakat is for the poor. That is misinformation.
Right.
Because we do know that Zakat also supports jihad. And say it goes to the poor, and they define the poor and needy as two different groups of people.
Well, think about this.
Another discussion.
How much poor do you have in the Islamic Empire? I mean, if you are taxing every farmer that grows anything, this amount of stuff, then that, and it's all supposed to go into the poor, then that means pretty much everybody in your Islamic paradise is poor. Because they're going to be poor if you tax them like this. You know what I mean? That's wow. That's just, wow, amazing.
It's kind of mind-numbing. Yeah. All right. Again, another piece that was totally Arabic, and I'm waiting to see if my translator does well, and I could actually comment on this next week because I'll come back to those. But again, I looked at this as I did with the other two, and it was, I mean, I don't understand why. I mean, I've been doing pretty well with Google Translate, but these three, this section on Zakat, when I push Google Translate and I take this picture, I'm getting some nonsensical statements, and I'm trying to figure out what's going on here. And I mean, it's not my first. I mean, I take 6 different looks at this to make sure something's going on. I just gave up after a while. So I said, okay, I'm going to ask this one person to take a look, see if he can translate this. I'm not, if it's as nonsensical as the Google Translate, I'll feel better. But it just kind of makes me think, what does it mean when you are afraid of your Muslim English speakers? You don't want them to know what this says. Because it's not, again, this is not written for the Christians or the Jews, it's written for the Muslims. Why are they trying to hide his law? What are they afraid? Somebody will say, oh, this is a nutball job who did this? Yeah. And I'm going to point this out before we get into it, but Muhammad required zakat of the dead. That never ceases to amaze me. This comes from Sunan an-Nasi. My mother he says, my mother died unexpectedly. If she had been able to speak, she would have given charity. Should I give charity on her behalf? The messenger, which is zakat, they're using for zakat. The messenger of Allah said yes, so he gave zakat on her behalf. Okay. You're now paying a death tax. Yeah. Some of these things just make you go, what? All right, I'm just going to skip.
Paul, I think I got it translated here. When I first tried it, it detected it as German. I had to manually switch it to Arabic. So it says, Oh, and I also had to block out the numbering. I had to black the numbering out, so that could have been thrown in. But here's what it is. It is recommended for the imam to send a harvester who has knowledge of the quantity of the fruit that comes out, assuming that he is just. As for the messenger's description of those two descriptions, it is a condition. It is not valid to send an ignorant or unjust person to harvest the fruits, which means that he goes around the palm tree and says in it, dates come from it. Such and such dates come from it, and such and such and such. The owner guarantees that the share of the poor guarantees a share of the poor, so that the right is transferred from the source to the dehima, such as dates or raisins, so that he can take it out after it dries, and the karas is specific to dates and raisins. Karas, they're spelling it Kharas.
Yeah, that was. Yeah, I saw that too.
That's the tax.
It's just Karaj is the tax on the land. Right. Karaj is the land tax. Yeah.
All right, specific to dates and raisins. So there is no kaharas for crops because they are not often eaten fresh, unlike dates, according to his account. So evidently, Allah didn't think of refrigeration. As such, as the car estimated in his obligation, the owner accepts this, and the right of the poor is then transferred from him to his responsibility, and he has the right to dispose of it after that. Here, I'll send us the whole screenshot here for you in Skype.
This is just, this is here we go. Eric, we got a nice comment for you. Eric knows the Eric Bick.
It says yabba dabba do. That's about as important as it is.
and you know, the thing is, it hasn't really. The sad stuff is we really haven't learned anything. Now I'm going to stop my screen and I want to talk about something I found that just upsets me, and I'm going to share the news article. And I know we're going to talk about it on Sunday night, but I want to make sure everyone here knows about this. I'm really, really upset about this article. Eric is an educator. He understands this, why this is so bad. You taught social studies. I taught social studies. I mean, I look at this is so bad what I'm going to share. It upsets me so much. And I know it upsets Usama because Usama had he just lost it. I'm sitting here laughing. Misinformation is what we're talking about. Total misinformation. And it just makes me mad. All right, let me just make this easier. Here we go. All right. Take a look at this. The headline from MSN, Microsoft News. New York teachers told jihad means struggle, not holy war. And Department of Education anti-bias training. Disingenuous. This is an opinion by Ben Clerkin, okay? I think that is an understatement. New York City teachers were told that jihad means simply struggle, not holy war, in training sessions against anti-Muslim bias run by the Department of Education. Eric, you have Reliance the Traveler on you, right?
Yes, I just sat down. Yep.
Can you read 09.0 for us?
09. Oh, my 9. I just wanted to show you. I had to go out and get my my haram meat off of the grill. 09.0.
Just the definition of jihad.
Jihad. Let's see here. Jihad is a communal obligation when enough people perform it. 09.1 or 09.0?
09.0, yeah.
Okay, here we are. Jihad means to war against non-Muslims.
Okay, there we go.
And
let's leave it there because that's what it says, word for word. This is in Arabic, translated into English, approved by the Muslim Brotherhood here in the world, and it's got Al-Azhar's stamp on it. Yet we have people in New York City teaching teachers that jihad means simply struggle. I have a problem with this.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to do a session. I'd love to invite a few people like Eric and maybe Dr. Lloyd De Jong and a few others to come in and comment on this.
It provides the scriptural basis. It goes on to say the scriptural basis for jihad prior to scholarly consensus is such Quranic verses as fighting is prescribed for you, not struggling. Fighting is prescribed to you. Slay them, not talk to them wherever you find them. Fight the idolaters utterly. All three of these verses are used as the justification for the definition of jihad.
You know what else? Have you guys heard of Dr. Bill Warner?
I have.
Yes.
Yeah, he's done a lot of articles about, a lot of different things concerning Islam. And he said that 97% of the time jihad is mentioned in Islamic texts, it's about war.
Yes, it's always about killing somebody.
Yeah, he does a great job of breaking down the percentages in which it's used, used in the Quran, the Hadith, and the Sirah, and then he breaks down the application of it, just like you said, Sharon, in telling us when does it, because it does mean you can say that it does mean to struggle. You can say that spiritually. But when the word is used, 95% of the time when the word is used, it means to fight. It does not mean to struggle spiritually. It means to fight physically.
I'd go to 99.999%. That's what I would go as far as that.
But you know what else?
The purpose of jihad, also the purpose of jihad is, if you look at Reliance of the Traveler, the purpose of jihad is to establish the religion of Islam. It tells you what the definition is. It tells you when it's to be used, but it also tells you what its purpose is, and that is to establish
the supremacy of Islam. Also is about, should I do jihad, the war, or should I not? I mean, they need to get clear about it.
That sounds like a song.
Well, so this gets better. I mean, think about this. This is what New York City teachers were told in a seminar. They were okay. Here's the examples they were given to justify what they said. My jihad to get fit in a video seen by the Post. This is New York Post reporting this. All right. A trainer from the Department of Education in New York City told teachers that Sharia simply means religious observance and did not mention brutal punishment and persecution of women and minorities by Sharia regimes, including the Taliban in Afghanistan. Look at this. This was the bullets for what is jihad. Such misinformation. So I filed a FOIA today, Freedom of Information Law request today in New York City. So I'm hoping to get that. I want to get the entire video and unpack it, and I will invite everyone. We'll see if we can get a super thing chat going. Maybe we'll get someone to host it that has access to more fun. That would be good to just destroy. And I figure because it's for educators, it can't be more than 2 hours. It's probably more. It's probably just an hour, like an after-school thing.
I would think so. But, yeah. If they're training and educating, yeah, you're absolutely right. Unless of course, it's one of those training days that we have to attend.
Well, it's a Zoom session, so I'm figuring an hour. I just can't see them giving this much propaganda. So I asked for a copy of the video and any ancillary or handouts that were given out. I also asked for the names of the presenters and any groups they are affiliated with, which my belief is you will find groups from the Muslim Brotherhood.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe one of them may be John Esposito. He's cited in their work. So let me just keep going.
John Esposito's cited in whose works?
In this article, he's cited.
Real as what? As an Islamophobe or what?
No, he's their defense. The webinar, Understanding Muslim Experiences and Combating Anti-Muslim Bias, was run by the city's Commission on Human Rights for February 20th with teachers across the city invited to a voluntary event. So because they invited teachers and this was sent out to teachers, I think the FOIL aspect can apply. And because it's an invitation sent by the city of, guess what? The City of New York Department of Education Act, I think I have a right to this material. And if I don't, we're going to have I have a lawyer I'm going to talk to, see if he can go a little bit farther with it. He's really good at FOIA, so we'll see what happens. Just getting I actually filed a FOIA, got told no. I talked to this guy. He says, let me make a phone call for you. Made the phone call. All of a sudden, I had the information. Like, okay, this sounds good. So we'll see. We'll knock on some doors if I have to. It's worth it. I am nowhere near New York City, thank you, God. But that's the other end of the state. We're us people in Western New York. We'd like to have New York City be its own state. I don't think they could survive without us. They would not significantly survive without us. All right, let's keep going. This is so bad. It was a part of a series of anti-discrimination workshops launched in the wake of the October 7th Hamas massacre of hundreds of innocent Israelis. Ooh, they got something right. In this article. The article is good, though. One later this week will deal with anti-Semitism. The Post has reached out to the DOE for comment. The literal meaning of jihad is struggle, great effort. Jihad is the Muslim concept of striving in the path of God, the host said. Yeah, and they're citing that my jihad campaign. Here's the name. Take a look. This was the name of the conference. That's just this past Tuesday. So I'm asking for that. The fact that they're doing this, based off their DIE, yeah. Examples she gave included, my jihad is to never settle short. My jihad is not to judge people. My jihad is to build friendships. And my jihad is to stay fit despite my busy schedule. A Jewish teacher who attended told the Post, they are trying to normalize jihad, but we have to address the elephant in the room, that for many radical Muslims, got to throw that word radical in, many normal Muslims, I'm going to put it, it means violence. And, see these guys? This is the part that really got me. What is Sharia? It says, Sharia literally translates to the path to the watering well. I'm talking to Osama, and Osama's like, what? It just means Islamic law. When you say Islamic and when you say Sharia, you're saying law. Okay? It's Arabic for the word law. Okay. Sharia is overwhelmingly concerned with personal religious observance, such as prayer and fasting, not with national laws, because they don't believe in national laws. You didn't tell the whole truth. They don't believe in following national laws. Think about that. There is no official document such as the 10 Commandments that encapsulate Sharia. Boy, that would make Zakat a lot easier, wouldn't it? Oh my gosh, if they had something simple to follow. Okay, you're only paying 2.5% on all your wealth. Just make a blanket statement. I mean, this is the words and the requirements they have are harder to understand than the IRS tax code. All right.
Can you put that link? Can you put the link in the private chat?
Yeah, I'll put it in both.
Both. It'd be best
because this is significant for everybody to take a look at, and then I'll put it in private. This is just mind-numbing.
Thank you.
Okay. Get back over here. All right. I mean, I saw this. I think we need to be posting this everywhere as prop. I mean, this is just. I mean, tell people if they want to know more about this to pay attention to Usama's Saturday show. We're gonna tackle this. We did it. It's gonna be something big for that show. I think he's like, we could spend the whole show doing this, and I've got like 6, 7, maybe 10 other stories, and yeah, we'll see.
Well, Mein Kampf means my struggle, so. You know what I mean? Okay,
yes.
So if you're just going to go by the thing, it just means struggle. Yeah, struggle against what? Okay, against the Jews? Against the Christians? Against the infidels? Against the kuffar? Against the hypocrites? Okay, so if you're just going to limit it to that word and take it out of its historical and spiritual context, okay, then still, what does jihad mean? If you're going to war, aren't you struggling against something? Aren't you struggling against your enemy? Or this is why the socialists will probably enjoy this, because it means struggle, the struggle session. So when they have a struggle session with you, they're doing jihad with you. I guarantee you that's how this is being used in that socialist context. Okay.
I'm interested to see who's presenting it, because it's just, I mean, the lies about Sharia, the lies about jihad are just kind of, I mean, they're huge. I mean, it goes on. There's a video. It says, reported by the Jewish Chronicle of London. The DOE referred to the post to the city's Commission of Human Rights. Okay. Again, if this is sponsored by the city and it says the city's Commission on Human Rights, again, I have a right. I'm a New York citizen. All right. Not New York City, but New York State. And, FOIAs are wonderful things. We'll have to have some fun. I'm hoping I get this whole thing. Here we go. The webinar went on to discuss Sharia law. The host said Sharia literally translates to the path of the watering well. There's no official document, it says, such as the 10 Commandments, as we shown there. Like, if they had that, their life for prayer would be a lot easier. Again, it ignores the use of Sharia law in parts of the Middle East to justify the example of Saudi Arabia's former ban on women driving. I still haven't found, we haven't got to that part where women are banned from driving. We'll have to see if we find that. I didn't see that when I read it the first time, the second time, or the third time. I mean, are women forbidden from leaving home without permission? Pretty much. So you can drive, but you have to have permission from your husband.
I've read where they've told us they allowed women to drive, but not really. There's restrictions on that too.
Yeah, well, if you don't have your husband's permission, if you don't have a letter or something saying that he gave you permission to leave the house, things like that, or you're outside without your escort, you're still in trouble.
Are you talking about Saudi Arabia?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I just saw, like last week or 2 weeks ago, and I put the link in our private chat with Eric on this documentary on how, and what is his name? MJ, what do they call him? The leader, MJB or something like that, of Saudi Arabia, the Crown Prince.
MBS.
MBS, yeah. And how he is opening up Saudi Arabia. No, a lot's been done. As of right now, women are driving. Okay. They actually have these fun centers that he's developed. I mean, they're just like these giant shopping malls. And they're showing women walking around without the burqa, without the abaya, even without the hijab, and mixing with people. Now, I'm sure it's probably for the elites of the elites, okay, that are doing this, but it's this huge thing. They're also doing these tours to these sacred spots, okay? That are forbidden, that you can't go to. They're archaeological sites, okay, they're doing that. They're opening up, they've actually allowing booze into the country.
Yeah, that's a new one.
No, seriously.
To allow liquor. Yeah, they started to allow liquor.
The dude really is, man. No, he really is opening this up. and because he's like, yeah, we can't exist this way. Like I was saying earlier, if you follow Sharia law, your country is going to decline. Okay, and he's noticing this, but be that as it may, Islam is still false no matter what. But it's just kind of funny. So I commented, I said, see, this is what happened. You allow women to drive, and now you're going to allow women to drink and drive. What could possibly go wrong? but no, this documentary, I mean, it is a total change from what it was like a decade ago. Oh, by the way, do you know what else? We can go to Medina. We couldn't go to Medina before. Well, we still can't go to Mecca, obviously, but we could go to Medina.
Who wants
us
to?
Kaffir, I know, right? Exactly. Who wants to? But us Kaffirs, we can go. Well, I would go there just to use the facilities. So
you know where else people are, non-Muslims are forbidden to go? The slave trade. You know, where they do their slave trading, because they still have that. And then
yeah, they probably don't want them to go there.
And then,
but no,
I'm not sure about Chop Square either. If they're allowed there.
I know people that have been there. Eric, have you been to Saudi?
I know people who have been there, and I'll tell you the truth. In the 70s is when I first became aware of what Islam was about.
I've been there, but it was only when I was in the army, not as a civilian.
So you didn't go to Chop Square? You didn't see it?
No. We were out in the flipping desert on a base. Yeah. They wouldn't let us near the city.
Sharon, you could probably back this up. From what I'm told, people that when I worked in the oil and gas industry, they will tell you if you are walking in Riyadh or whatever is the capital or wherever they do the chop, and you walk past Chop Square, they will drag you and they want you to watch it.
And that's exactly what happened to my boyfriend. He worked for Ovamco. He got pushed into Chop Square. He saw a beheading. He saw a stoning. He saw a child get his hand cut off. And I'll tell you the truth, when he came home, every time he would come home, because they would give him like a month off every 5-6 months, he would get more and more drunk. And the last time he came home, it was about 2 or 3 months after that, he killed himself on the road, because he was drunk. Because I don't think he could handle what he saw.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. 2 weeks later, I'm going to tell you,
sorry.
2 weeks later, I was in the Marine Corps.
Wow, I'm sorry. No, that's a sad story. But no, from what I've heard from other people, you walk past that, they will literally push you up to the front of the line so they will see it because they are very proud of it. Now, again, that was over a decade ago. Now, that was over a decade ago. Remember, ISIS changed a lot of this. That's why I said ISIS was the best thing to happen for us. ISIS actually caused more apostates, than Christian evangelism because it was in your face. They saw what they were doing. You could not deny it wasn't Islam because guess what? They're quoting the Islamic scriptures. They're quoting the Islamic sources. They're quoting the Islamic rulers. Even Dr. Brown, Dr. Jonathan Brown, even what's his name, the guy with the holes in the Quran, even he came out. They all came out and they were like, yeah, maybe we need to readdress this killing apostate thing. Maybe we need to readdress this stoning adulterers. Maybe it was good back then, but maybe we should not do this now. Now, actually, Dr. Jonathan Brown actually says in his article, now that when it was done in secret, when it was done before mass media, when it was just a hint, just a whisper of it being done, yes, then we could get away with it. But now that it's being done on social media and it spreads across the world like wildfire, and you can see it in video, you can see it. Maybe we should not do this anymore.
Yeah. I gotta say good night to everybody too. This is getting late. I want to say thank you to everybody for paying attention and contributing. I can't do this work without you. Rad, Sharon, Eric, I thank you for your input. I never would have got the first year and the second year part. I struggled with that. I gave you my concept and I like yours. One of these days, I hope to understand that better. It just, some things just aren't written to make sense, is what I'm thinking. Well, God bless you all. I hope you all have a great week. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Paul.
All right.